This video is going to be a look at the Bengals defense. I'll be honest with you, I got the Bengals defense film kind of late in the week and was able to look at it Thursday and Friday. A couple of people, other content creators, and people in my Discord had told me that the Bengals defense was different, a lot more man-free. And I tend to agree from the possessions that I watched. I believe I watched the first 7 possessions of their game last week. And I have to tell you, I really like their DB group. Really do. Dax Hill, I think it's Nick Scott, 33. CTB, one of their starting corners. DJ Turner, number 20. They've got back, 2 holdovers from that DB group in a Woozy, who's returning from an ACL injury. Severely underrated football player, if you ask me, and Mike Hilton. What I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to show you guys up front some things that I think the Ravens may try to do. I'm not sure that they'll be successful because I do think this is a very versatile group. I agree with people who said that there's a little bit different style in terms of the coverages. Maybe we're seeing more man-free, more robber, people want to call it. But I'm going to show you, or attempt to show you, how multiple they are in coverage. They did lose 24-3 last week against the Browns, gave up 350 yards. But if you really look at the stats and you watch the gameplay, they only gave up 4.9 yards per play. There was a lot of really good snaps in there. Maybe 65, 70% of the snaps were really good. The Browns were 4 out of 14 on third down. It's not like Deshaun Watson was incredibly impressive throwing the football. I did think he had at least 1, maybe 2 really clear misses against, when the receivers were open. The Browns ran for 206 yards, which looks bad, no doubt. But Chubb had 106, and Watson had 45, which is interesting for us as Ravens fans. We're looking for ways that our team can win this game without 2 of our starting offensive linemen, without Marlon Humphrey, without Marcus Williams. Maybe this is a game where Lamar Jackson can get some rushing yards. I did believe in 2021 that the Bengals were forcing a keep read for Lamar on a lot of option stuff to make him run rather than throw. Kind of forcing us to be one-dimensional in terms of Lamar running the ball. From a defensive standpoint overall, I guess what I'll do is I'll compare Lou Anarumo to an author. It's going to be kind of weird maybe comparison because I'm usually doing sports to sports. The last 2 years they've been quite versatile. I think they played a lot of quarter, split field stuff, and then man-free on third down. And in the playoffs the last 2 years, and I've gotten some pushback from people in comment sections before, they've played a lot of 3-man rush. And they've done it against the Ravens on third downs at times. But then they also play sticks blitz 0. I haven't gotten a beat on Lou in terms of which part of the field he does those things in. And that's one of the things I really like about watching the Bengals is that in some way they've been a mystery to me. Do things look more simple this year? Maybe a little. But I still think they're playing a really good brand of football on the defensive side. I think things will even out for them as far as their offense is going to produce more. They only had 6 first downs last week. The defense was playing kind of one-handed. I don't see that happening. But my Lou as an author comparison, maybe the last 2 years for the Bengals was his first set of books that had one style, that had one approach or one method that worked. And they were all bestsellers. And maybe he's had some time off as an author, and this is now a new type of book that's slightly different that maybe his original fans recognize as different, but is still pretty cool. So that's my comparison. Maybe I need to stick to the sports to sports comparisons. Let's get to the film. Some things that maybe the Ravens will do. Pro twins. So meaning 11 personnel pro twins, which is what we're motioning to down here. So you've got tight end and Z or receiver to the right, and then twins up here. Because usually when the Bengals are playing man, you're going to get Dax Hill over the tight end, and then they're going to match up. Awuzie, Hilton, and CTB, or DJ Turner if he's on the field, are going to match up. I think if the Ravens go pro twins, they can manipulate who's going to be up here to the field side, control who's going to be there once they know the matchups, once they know how the Bengals are matching up in terms of who they're sending to which Ravens player. When we're in 11 personnel, pro twins is a 2-by-2 formation, but I think we can control it because wherever Dax Hill goes, generally Mike Hilton is going to go opposite in terms of man coverage. They're not going to put Mike Hilton on Rashad Bateman. I suspect they're going to put him on Zay Flowers, and I think that's a matchup the Ravens can win sometimes. All right, the next one that I think the Ravens should look at from a formation standpoint. Sorry, I got a lot of papers here. Is well, not really a formation standpoint, but 20 personnel. I think that 20 personnel looks like something that'll elicit the nickel coverage for the Bengals. There's only going to be one 20 personnel formation here, just to let you know. And Ricard's lined up as the tight end on the snap. This is the wham trap play last week against the Texans. But if Dax Hill is going to go to the tight end in 11 personnel, in 20 personnel, you would presume he's going to go to Ricard. So from that standpoint, I think we can determine coverage out of 11 personnel or 20 personnel easily. Meaning, if Dax Hill isn't lined up to Pat Ricard's side in 20 personnel, it ain't man free. Unless that's not how they're matching up. Unless they're going to use Nick Scott or Mike Hilton on the tight end, but I don't suspect that's what they're going to do. And so, to my point from the beginning about the author writing a different style book, from a Lou Anarumo standpoint, that's a little different on early downs. In the last 2 years, I thought they played a lot more split field quarter stuff on early downs, particularly against us. This is a beautiful football play. Wham trap. Did a video about it. I don't know if you guys checked it out. Maybe I'll link it up in the description. I'm not sure if this is what people are looking for on Sunday mornings. The feedback was pretty good last week. You'll have to let me know if you guys enjoy it. I would like to do this and focus in on one side of the ball on Saturday and another side of the ball on Sunday morning. But again, if other Ravens content creators is out there putting out content on Sunday mornings, I don't want to step into that space. So Ricard's going to wham trap this D tackle, and the Bengals haven't seen this, number one. Number two, I think we've got to run away from Ricard. And look, the two linemen that are our most athletic guys that are moving out here are the two that aren't playing this week. So clearly the Ravens are at a deficit talent-wise in terms of the offensive line. But EA called this a three-man trap, which is, an accurate term. You're basically getting three down blocks, essentially, by the F or Ricard, by the right guard and the left guard. And then the tackle in the center, again, our most athletic guys, is working up top. I would love to see the Ravens. I think Dax Hill's a really talented football player, and he's a guy that I wanted the Ravens to draft possibly 2 years ago. But the film that I've seen so far of this year looks a little rugged at times. I think we've got built-in key breakers when Ricard is on the field. The Bengals have had answers for those things in the past, and I'm interested to see how they treat Ricard. Do they treat Ricard the same way? Is he going to take them to the play all the time, et cetera, et cetera? I think we can control matchups when Ricard's on the field in 20 personnel, number one. Number two, does Monken have built-in key breakers that go against our tendencies from the past to kind of exploit what the Bengals might do? Okay, last one is trips closed. So closed is tight end nobody to one side, and then trips to the other. Now this case is 12 personnel trips closed. I think I'm going to show you 11 personnel trips closed in a minute. I like this because I think we're going to get the coverage easily, especially at 11 personnel. If Dax Hill ain't over here, and you don't have Hilton, Woozy, and CTB over here, if it's three receivers, it ain't man free, and it ain't robber. At least so far from the film that we've seen. But this is 12 personnel, so it's slightly inaccurate description there from the standpoint of the personnel grouping that will be on the field for us and how they would match it. But I'm real interested in this formation, especially versus their nickel. I think you may have opportunities for Lamar to run the football to the tight end nobody side, especially if you do it like this, with Ricard as the backside tight end and maybe a third receiver on the field. Again, I'm talking 20 personnel. I think that's a real X factor every week for the Ravens. And maybe we didn't, yards per play didn't show it last week, but I think 20 personnel is something that people are going to have trouble matching up with. This is the version that I really, really like. Whether this is a tight end up here or a fullback, Ricard, you've got truly three receivers, and you've always got the threat of Zay, with the bubble. This may be likely here, which would make it 12 personnel. So we could do this from 12, which in some cases might make it even better because you're getting a base defense look from the Bengals possibly. But they're also very willing in the past to defend 12 personnel out of their nickel, and that may be the case on Sunday or later today. I really like the bubble screens that we're doing out to the edge with Zay Flowers, particularly out of this formation. And again, I think the opportunity exists for us to, have the running back cross face and Lamar keep it and run to the side where there's only a tight end, leave one guy on block and make him tackle him. But with the injuries we have, I also recognize it might be prudent for our offensive staff to say, hey, maybe we don't want to run the football with Lamar a whole lot in week 2. I'm fine with that if that's your perspective as well. So those are the 3 situations that I would think we may look at. Pro Twins, a 2x2 set, 20 personnel with Ricard, and then trips closed out of 12 personnel or 11 personnel. See how they line up. I feel like we can predetermine coverage from how the Bengals are lining up so far. So let's talk about that a little bit. I'm going to show you probably 12 plays, guys. This is 2nd and 7 on the first possession. Empty, and you're getting man free. The inside linebacker is on the tight end in the slot right here. And Dax Hill is on the running back out wide. Clearly, what the coverage is. But how are they matching up? I think it's Nick Scott at free safety. That's CTB on Amari Cooper. So they're telling you that it's man based on how they're matching up. Pre-snap, this is consistent in terms of Hilton being on Moore, CTB being on Amari Cooper, and then Awuzie being on Donovan Peoples-Jones. This is the very next play. It's a 3rd and 7 from the first possession. I think you're going to get a robber. This safety's going to spin down. I think this guy rolls back, but I may have that backwards. Man, it's a dime look versus 11 personnel. Dime, so there's 6 DBs on the field. Woozy is in the slot against Peoples-Jones. Watson scrambles for the first down. One inside linebacker on the field, and he's going to match up with the running back. Look how wide he's lined up. Really wide to the boundary. Again, I think there's some things the Ravens can do formationally so that Lamar will know the coverage. Of course, the sticks blitz 0 could be an issue, and they do play it, and they played it in this game in week 1, and I'll show it to you here in a moment. You'd love to see Lamar be able to convert a couple of first downs, break off big plays on 3rd and long or 3rd and medium like that. Very next play, 1st and 10. It's going to be a sack. Again, it's man versus twin slot. So the tight end is moving from one side to the other. Dax Hill is going with him. So, now in the broadcast view, we don't really see all of this sometimes. It's kind of zoomed out. But if you do get an opportunity to see it, that kind of tells you some of the coverages. Again, it's a sack. Both inside linebackers are blitzing. CTB, again, is on Amari Cooper down at the bottom of the screen. Dax Hill's on the tight end. Hilton is in the slot here on Moore. And up to the top side, you got a Woozy on, I think, Donovan Peoples-Jones. 7-yard loss on 1st and 10. Bringing pressure. Dax Hill dropped out because the tight end folded inside the block. 2nd and 17, 11 personnel. This is not man. How do you know? We got Moore out here, and there's a Woozy. You got Donovan Peoples-Jones in the slot, and there's Hilton. They're not matched up man. Here's Cooper. Here's the tight end backside. They're not matched up. They're going to drop Dax Hill down to the trips. I think this is a version of cover 3. So we can do an easy job, I think, of, I don't want to say manipulating, but using formations to figure out or suss out the coverage pre-snap so we're not surprised by the things they do. Now, look, is Lou going to show different looks later on in the game, play cover 3 the first 2 times, and then change it later on? Of course he will. Hopefully at that point the Ravens have been able to get a lead and kind of put the Bengals defense on the defensive, on the back foot. But they're a talented group of guys, and Lou's a great coach. All right. Heavy pressure stunt here on 3rd and 11. Hilton and Dax Hill are going to blitz off the edge, and Hubbard goes all the way from the left defensive end position and stems all the way across the formation. So you're getting 2 guys off the edge. Hubbard here is going to loop all the way around, and then he's going to be the guy that folds back inside when Watson goes to scramble. Heavy pressure. We're certainly going to see this with the trouble we had at times against pressure looks. Second drive after a stop, 11 personnel bunch into the boundary. This could be a Lamar check here to attack to the field, but you've got a Woozy down here. But why am I mentioning to the boundary? Nickel to the boundary, I think, is right here. We can manipulate where the nickel goes out of 11 personnel, and again, we can figure out the coverage based on where the nickel is. Finally, from this formation, with the nickel into the boundary and this motion, I think there's the opportunity to attack one or both of the safeties, Hill or Scott, deep on a wheel route. We've attacked them with a wheel in the past. I've showed it probably in 6 videos. Marquise Brown, incomplete on a wheel up top, left side, 2021. I would like to see this Ravens offense attack down the field. Not that I don't think the Bengals are good in coverage. I think they're very sound, but I would like to see us attempt it to make them aware of it. Now, the pass protection is an issue. Again, you've got nickel into the boundary. Doesn't look like man to me on this play. It's a 1st and 10 from near midfield. It's going to be run to the field. So these are back-to-back plays with the nickel into the boundary, on bunch into the boundary, and watch on the motion now. Hilton's kind of locked in. Whatever the coverage is, he's locked into this side of the field. He's not going all the way across. Gives us the opportunity to know the coverage, number one. Hopefully the offensive line and the staff there have done a good job of tagging the coverages with the stunts, so you're not going to see certain stunts out of certain coverages, and then it's Lamar's job and O-line's job to recognize that, remember it, in the 3 to 5 seconds between motion and the ball being snapped. I will say this: the DNs for the Bengals usually on stuff like this, where you've got flow to one side, quarterback's back turned. Against the Ravens, they're normally going to half-man this. They're not going to be as heavy going down the line like Hubbard is here, leaving the opportunity for Lamar to keep it. But also, too, we've been in the pistol, and the pistol just doesn't offer the same elongation of the conflict in terms of run conflict to one side and the boot to the opposite side by the quarterback. It doesn't put this guy in conflict for as long of a period of time. Under center does. I don't think this is how their DNs are going to play it on flow away when we're under center, especially with, and I've talked about this many times already, 5 out of 6 or 6 out of 7 actually, one back under center, play action boot to our right, including the preseason and last week against the Texans. So when the Bengals see that, they're going to be prepared for it, if you ask me. 3rd and 4, same possession, second possession, 11 personnel flex, and they're showing man here from their nickel personnel. The ball's in the middle of the field, and you've got Hill on the tight end here, Awuzie on Peoples-Jones, CTB on Cooper. So really telling us the coverage. Now, we're not going to get that view as fans, but the Ravens coaches are, and Lamar is. Mike Hilton on Moore in the slot on 3rd and 4. And then this is a run I really love this stuff against some of the mug looks you get, or sticks blitz 0. It's 3rd and 4. We get sticks blitz 0. I think this should be in the playbook as a check potentially. Now, we don't have Nick Chubb, and unfortunately we don't have J.K. Dobbins. Pray that dude gets healthy and can come back and have an amazing career. But this opportunity is there for us to run off tackle. They're pulling a guard and looping him outside. The tight end's down, blocking on Hendrickson, doing a great job, if you ask me. Right here. And Dax Hill's kind of left in no man's land. Chubb's got a two-way go, cuts it up inside, 17-yard gain on 3rd and 4. You're not going to get the Bengals with something like that 6 times in a game. You'll be lucky to get them 2 or 3 times, but you maybe can get them once. Talking about a 3rd and 4 run play like that. 1st and 10, same possession. 11 personnel bunch. Where's the bunch? To the boundary. Nickel starts out to the boundary up there to match the numbers. And again, on the motion, he's kind of locked into that side. Coverage call, because of the coverage call. I think this is Scott, the other safety, kind of rolled down into a 4-4 look. And they're very sound run-wise to the boundary. I think we're going to see runs to the boundary. That seems to be one of the things that Monken really likes to do. And, of course, the Browns do as well with Nick Chubb. All right, sorry, I had to make sure that my stream was working good. So the Browns like running into the boundary. This kind of gives us a clue as to how the Bengals are going to line up with bunch into the boundary. Monken will have a far more organized, 1,000 times more organized plan and way to explain it than I would. But again, support for the run to the boundary when the nickel is over there. you still kind of have a mirrored look over here because it's a 4-4 look. You have 4 players to defend the run, immediate run to this side and the immediate run to this side. Maybe we look for situations like this to try to throw the ball deep. I do think Awuzie is a fantastic corner. CTB is very underrated. The boot, again, under center. Watch Hubbard. This is not generally what we were getting out of Lamar when Lamar's on the field. Open to the side and then boot off of it. Hubbard was, quick to go this way. He wasn't going down the line as much against us to leave all that space for Lamar. Now, Watson doesn't really hit this full speed like Lamar could. I didn't think Watson looked super aggressive running, but he did have 45 rushing yards. So that kind of goes against my theory. This boot stuff was there last week against the Bengals. It really hasn't been, in my opinion, for the Ravens for a lot of reasons. Some would say it's just because of Lamar. I also think it's because of how predictable we were. Ends up being a 5-yard gain here. Certainly with Lamar back there at quarterback, that could be a 10 or 15-yard gain easy. Very next play. 2nd and 5, 11 personnel. And you're going to get one back power, I think, to the field. And these safeties get involved in the run. They're both fast. They're both athletic. The left tackle does a fantastic job. I'll show you a little bit here in the end. The tight end does as well. Ends up being, I think, a 8-yard gain, something like that. And then a fumble. This is not Nick Chubb, by the way. There's a little bit of a hesitation here between the quarterback and the running back, but check out what the tight end does. He steps down and hedges just a little bit onto this D end and then goes up to the front side inside backer. Additionally, check out this tackle, the left tackle. He's going to bump and then lead up to the backside inside linebacker. They get both linebackers handled. 34 is able to stick through there. Good gain, and I think it's Logan Wilson and I think Scott on the initial hit to force the fumble. I'm not sure who got credit for it, but you can see right here, these guys get involved. These safeties come downhill and get involved. They are athletic enough that in some cases they're coming down a half a step late, but they're athletic enough to be able to close down, if you ask me, and still get involved. All right, 3rd possession. This is a 2nd and 3. And you've got Trey to the boundary. So the Browns have, again, Trey is tight end, and then 2 receivers out of 11 personnel. They've forced the nickel into the boundary. So from this one high look, what the Bengals have done is they've moved Logan Wilson towards the boundary. The other inside linebacker, I think, is Pratt. And then they've walked down one of the safeties into the box. Ends up being a 6-yard run on inside zone where? To the field. So they're getting the nickel and the inside linebacker to widen up into the boundary. Could Todd Monken do this? Yes. A lot of us have said for a while that that's what he wants to do. He wants to force you to defend the boundary and maybe be successful in running plays over there, but then possibly to punish you to the field. I didn't think that Pratt played as well to the standard that I have for him, to be honest with you. I do also think that out of this look, if we can get this, we got to be able to run the ball in order to get this look. They're doing this because of who's back there in the backfield, Chubb. We got to look at taking some of the one-on-ones, even if it's against Awuzie, and I think Awuzie is a great football player. I'm a Ravens fan, but I'll say this, it stunk to see, that's not Awuzie, that's DJ Turner, who's very talented as well. But it was tough to see Awuzie get injured like that last year. I thought he was just beginning to be recognized in the way that he should for the talent level that he has and how he performs. A few things that I think I could see the Ravens maybe doing is going with this concept here, forcing the safeties to get involved in the over concept if it's a too high safety look. But again, they're playing a lot of man, in my opinion. And EA was the first guy who messaged me about it, that they were playing a lot of man free, playing a lot of robber. It certainly looks like it to me. I think this is the 3 deep, 2 under coverage by the Bengals. I'll pull it back here, but there you can see the 2 under is the circles, and then the corner, free safety and corner. They're doing they do this often, don't get me wrong. They're bringing heavy pressure. And I've seen them do this last year. I would say probably twice a game, maybe 3, something like that. If you're a Bengals fan and you watch this long, first of all, thank you. I appreciate that. But second of all, tell me if that's your impression. I felt like I saw this coverage call twice a game, maybe 3 times. And it is more sound than some people would think, especially when you're letting those 2 underneath guys kind of look at the quarterback, read his eyes. Ends up being a 20-yarder on the deep over concept to Amari Cooper. Like I said, on a 1st and 10 out of 11 personnel. Same possession, balls flipped, 2nd and 8. Bad news for you. They play sticks blitz zero. And here it is. That yellow line is the line to gain, the sticks. And they're going to run a screen. The Browns are trying to get the ball to Chubb. But watch what Hubbard does on this. There's a call, not on every play, but there's a call that the Bengals have where on motion to his side, Hubbard jumps out of there. And imagine he didn't. I mean, it's 3-on-3 with the blocks. You got Logan Wilson, pursuing inside out against Nick Chubb. Logan Wilson's a really good inside linebacker, but you like Nick Chubb's chances if Hubbard isn't there. Again, watch the timing of this. When Hubbard goes is when he clears the quarterback. That's not all the time. That's not Hubbard's rule all the time, but there's a certain call they have in. Maybe it's a coverage where they do this, but they were certainly showing sticks blitz zero pre-snap, and as a Ravens fan, it'll be nightmarish if we see that type of coverage 6 or 8 times, work against us. All right. We'll go back to sticks blitz zero again, unfortunately for you guys. This is a 3rd and 10 from the same possession, excuse me. And you've got the very next play, I should say. You've got 11 personnel flex. Going to be a 5-man rush with man-free robber. I think that safety is going to spin down. And they're going to play man-free with a 5-man rush. This is probably the version of man that we will see, where I don't suspect we're going to see a 4-man rush with a low hole dropper. I think we're going to see a 5-man rush with a safety spinning down. Now, in some cases, you could say, hey, coach, he's on the running back. He very well may be on the running back there. When I say he, I mean the safety, and he just happens to be in the middle of the field. No doubt about that. But teams generally are playing bringing 5-man rush against us in man-free situations to get the ball out of Lamar's hands quick. So on the last 2 plays, you had 2nd and 8, sticks blitz zero, screen, and now you got 3rd and 10, man-free robber. They're very versatile. They are. Even with all the young DBs. All right, 4th possession, and the Browns are one of the teams that do this a lot. They bring a 6th offensive lineman on. They go jumbo 12, and they run F counter down here to the bottom. Watch how the right guard deals with Hendrickson on the kick out. Just a cool little thing he does at the end of the block. Chubb makes a great cut. Pratt, like I said, didn't play well. I hold him to a higher standard than he played in week 1. I think he's a better player than that. But watch what the right guard does when he kicks out Hendrickson. He's got the awareness to get his hips and his feet out of the way. Give Chubb just a little bit more room to make a cut. He may not have tripped. They may not have collided at all or touched each other at all, but the awareness, you're dealing with a badass football player like Trey Hendrickson, and I don't really like setting it inside here, but I understand you don't want Nick Chubb out in space against your DBs either. But when you're dealing with a badass like Trey Hendrickson, you have the awareness to finish this off with your feet, your hips, and get your ass out of the way and let Nick Chubb get downhill. Ends up being a 9-yard gain. Like I said, I think that Pratt is usually very involved. I would not look for him to perform in the same way that he did this past week. I thought he played poor for his standards. I wonder if the Bengals are a little bit more predictable from a coverage standpoint, to be honest with you. You have the tight end into the boundary, and you have the running back into the boundary. This is Dax Hill. He's on the same side as the tight end. He's not spinning down. The Ravens coaches and players would be 1,000 times better at this than me, for real. And look, you've always got the threat of Trey Hendrickson doing stuff like this. It's annoying because he's going to talk to you about it afterwards, but he's this talented. He gave problems to all of our left tackles. I thought Ronnie Stanley did a great job against him last year, but I did think that in the wildcard game he had 2 reps against Ronnie Stanley where he looked really good. But in any case, I would love to see some stuff like this that's got this spacing from the Ravens. We used to call it star space. I think the Eagles ran this the first play of the game this year in their first game. Maybe it wasn't the Eagles. I can't remember who it was. But in any case, I do wonder if the Bengals are a little bit more predictable. Clearly, you've got a zone here by the Bengals. Looks like quarter, half to me. Cover 6, whatever you want to call it. On a 2nd 11, and Hendrickson gets his hands on the football. Maybe the Bengals do more of this because of our O-line situation. When I say this, I mean 4-man rush, play 2 high safety looks, force Lamar and our guys to execute down the field 8, 10, 12 play drives. Maybe they do this because they feel like their pass rush can get to us. It's possible. Let me know what you think in the comment section. And then one more for good measure. Same drive, fourth one, 3rd and 11, sticks blitz 0. They're committed to it. Here's how committed they are to it. Watch what the safety does when the tight end walks inside, presumably to pass pro. I mean, look at what you got. Clearly sticks blitz 0. You got these guys lined up at just in front of the sticks. It's 11 yards. They're about 2 yards in front of the sticks, 1 or 2 yards in front of the sticks. This is what I think No, I don't want to see Lamar get hit like this. But I think this is what they got to do, attack downfield. We're not talking about the throw. Deshaun Watson's getting hit as he's throwing. There's heavy pressure. Can it work with Zay Flowers running a China out? These guys running vertical? Absolutely. Sure. No problem. I'll take either one of those options. What I don't want to see is 6 screens against this on 3rd and 11 where the Bengals are playing with great leverage, and as soon as Lamar turns one way to throw the football, when they're in sticks blitz 0, the guys are taught, go with Lamar's eyes, go with the quarterback's eyes. I would love to see us attack deep, whether it's against this coverage or man free. OBJ, Bateman, Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews if he plays. I like the Bengals DB core. I like how multiple they are for being young guys. I think they got a great future. Having said that, I want us to attack them deep. I want to make them aware of it, force them to defend that area, not just the horizontal width of the field, force them to defend vertical, and I want to see us throw the ball more in the middle of the field because I didn't think we did last week, other than 2 completions to Rashad Bateman. This was some of my looks at what the Bengals did last week against the Browns in certain situations, how I suspect that we might be able to determine the coverage, and then maybe what we could do in some situations to try to thwart it or attack it. You guys let me know if you enjoy these videos on Sunday mornings. This one took me a little bit to get done on Saturday night. I appreciate you guys' time. Let me know what you think of the video in the comment section. If you think other Ravens fans, Bengals fans even would enjoy this breakdown on Sunday morning, please consider sharing it on social media to help this content get more reach.